Hello everyone and welcome to the webinar for the first one in January 2017, first one of this year. Today's webinar will be looking at Nebu Reporter. This is Nebu's new product that's being released very shortly. It's a dashboard focusing product, and we will be talking you through how you can implement this, set this up for your users, and what type of information you can put through there. The webinar will last approximately 40 minutes, followed by a brief Q&A at the end. So what we're going to look at, again, as I said, is Nebu Reporter. So initially, we have to address, what exactly is Nebu Reporter? Well, what it is a connection to enable you to look at real-time insights based on your projects. And this is enhanced by having a direct connection between the dashboard, the reporter, and the Nebu data collection tools that are in the background there, the Dub Interviewer. The data is automatically written back into the system, so you can have sort of auto updates of the data available that you're displaying to your dashboard, to your end user, and it can be customized to make it look like a very client-specific look and feel, stylized with logos, backgrounds, images, fonts, to make it really seem as though it's an integral part of your end user's platform. So when they look at the dashboard, they can see it in their styling, their formats, their colors. So really, who is the sort of Nebu Reporter aimed at? Well, it's really looking at trying to provide an insight into the statistics, the progress monitoring of your survey in a very sort of custom, modern look and feel, but obviously putting selected information in there. So rather than using the manage frames area that's sort of with restricted login and access rights and filtering it there, you have a much more convenient, easier to use dashboard, which will provide you that nice look and feel reporting directly to your end client, or even research exec that maybe wants to see some progress there as well. So if we have a quick look at a sort of an example on here, and I'll just switch over to a live one so I can show you a bit there of, the differences of how they can look and feel on there. So here we are. We have a sort of a live dashboard here, obviously a unique link looking in the top hand. You see we've embedded a video. We've got various different stats and information here as well. Some we sort of hovers over so we can see the information. Obviously different times and dates you can add in there. Breakdown of completes, and we're looking at the quota sales, looking at the length of interview, the question types that are in there as well. So it gives us a very clear picture, a very sort of custom look and feel there, styling, as to what a sort of a report, a dashboard can look like. Now, if we sort of want to obviously look at how we put those dashboards together, that reporter together, and really there's sort of 4 simple steps in the process to making a dashboard, creating it. Obviously, the first step on there is to add the dashboard. So we click on the sort of button that's in your management console to add dashboard. You then look at importing your configuration. So this is selecting a previous defined layout for your reports. Now this can be sort of different templates, different configurations you may have depending on what you want to report. You may have, for example, a specific set of reporting widgets assigned for web styles, one specific ones for a CATI reporting on there, or you may even have it set up for individual clients. So you're looking at loading the same dashboard with the same visuals to a client and simply changing that data source. So the import of the configuration means you can very quickly reproduce the types of reporting you're used to providing to your end client in as I said, just these simple 4 steps on there. Then we look at selecting obviously your data set. So, there's a drop down in there to choose the data source, and this will update, refresh all the widgets that are available within that report of the data source, and reflect the information that's there. Obviously, bearing in mind that if you are sort of utilizing CATI specific widgets, and we'll come on to what type of widgets are in there later, but if you are using those and you select a web data source, then obviously the data won't be displayed there. It's in the different modes. So there's things to be aware of there, but obviously the more you get to use the product, the more you'll understand what sort of items that need attention in there. So once you've got that, then you simply have to share. And the sharing options are inbuilt in there. You can customize the name of the report. So the URL link is customized specifically to what's in your naming item on there. By default, it's auto-generated a sort of a unique link in there. And this is able to be used as well. And we embed within the dashboard, the management area, the ability to be able to sort of launch your dashboards just through a simple QR code. So you can use that to distribute as well. Now, what I'm going to do is sort of just briefly switch over again back to sort of the management console and talk you through that process of actually setting up a dashboard on there and the 4 stages that we have. So if we flick over to our dashboard, we have several different dashboards here as well. As you'll notice at the top here, add dashboard. So I simply click on the add dashboard there. You can see that we have the ability to sort of select the names here, the project and title. So we can actually customize it from there and build a brand new dashboard. Or as I said, the quickest way, we can just import, select my file there. So we have Nebu Reporter type files. These are all the various different configurations I may hold, and then I can load those in. So if I load in this configuration, you see it's been given a sort of a default name on there. I import that one up. My dashboard is created. We have the configuration file and then the date and time stamp on here as well. So we get a sort of, it was month, year, date on there, and we've got the timestamp on there as well as a default. Obviously, you can look at then configuring it. So I've now loaded in a report. It's got in my information here, a previous configuration. So it's looking at a current project to load whatever's here. You see I've got some whole counts, some quota sales up there as well. And I can then simply sort of unlock my report and look at making those additional changes. So from here, I can then choose a different data source. Now, the data sources are restricted based upon the Managed Frames login. You can only select those projects for which you have access rights to that. So when you log into your dashboard management console to create any new reports, any new dashboards, the data sources available to you are only those that are available to you as a Managed Frames user. So there is a link between the 2 users there, and obviously that then restricts your capability in which data you can access and how you can set up those management consoles and dashboards as well. So you see here we also have the download config option there as well. So I have a report. If I make any changes in here, I can then save that as a template, as a configuration file for my next report. I can make my adjustments as we go along. So here I simply sort of choose the drop down. I can sort of flick through any of the information I have there. If I choose in this one, I'm going to choose a web version here as well. And you'll notice that as it refreshes some of the data, we get different number of completes, different options on there as well. My core results, well, it's a web survey, so this is going to be almost empty. I have little in there to give me that information. It's automatically updated my quota sales and the quotas that are in there and given me some of the information on the last question, length of interviews, those types. Now, obviously, being aware of what data you're supplying, I've now got this here, and I can sort of share this out to my client on there as well. As we saw, we've got the ability to share different loads there. But I'm just going to look at some of the sort of customization we can do to the top of this, some additional customization, perhaps after I've done this quick loading. I might want to make some changes here specifically. So perhaps I want to give it another sort of URL link on the name there. It'll check whether this is unique. It checks whether it meets our requirements. So you see this sort of tick on the end there. I've got my sharing option straight away, so I can uncheck that if I want to make some changes. It revokes the sharing rights, so this dashboard is now no longer available. Obviously, having that back on so we can see and share it and look what's happening there. And the title, this is a sort of a title that would appear at the top of the dashboard. I can choose that, and it's always customizable. And as soon as you start sort of customizing it and entering it in, so something like that, I can then look at, I'll have it bold, choose sort of an extra large font in there as well. Maybe I want it left aligned, and I can choose, the color I want to display. I'll quickly say OK to that one. And you'll see we've now got the sort of the title for my dashboard assigned in here as well. So we can make those very quick customizations. If I'm looking at the background, perhaps I wanted to change the background image on here as well. You may have noticed when we were scrolling in the background, you could see through some of the widgets, some of the transparency there. You could see that the image itself stayed in place. And you can then obviously change that and alter that by using the options on here as well. You'll also notice we have this sort of SSL active. The dashboard itself is using a secure connection. Now, obviously, you can copy any images you want in there, but being aware that when you do that, some browsers may flag up a security concern because you're having a non-secure link, a HTTP link within a HTTPS, a secure environment. So it's just a sort of a little bit of an active notice on here as well. So if I wanted to quickly change the background on there, I can do this by just simply going into another URL. Let me just replacing this one here. I've got an extra URL in there as well. And then I've changed sort of the background on there. Again, it's refreshing all of my data, refreshing up the dashboard ready for presentation. So I've quickly changed my background. If we can look at the sort of how this is mobile compatible on there as well. So obviously when you produce a dashboard, you can choose in your sort of columns how many columns width you want on there. And let me just put that onto sort of 10 columns, and I'm going to put a 30 spacing between the widgets on there, just to demonstrate what it looks like. So in here, you then end up with having a reduced column width across your screen for the different widgets. Now, obviously, we can move them around using the blank space, optimizing the screen size we have there. But it just means that you're able to control the look and feel, the styling that's in your system. If I just put that one back, sort of reset that back, a smaller area on there as well, you'll see that it auto adjusts with the different widgets. And then we can look, if I wanted to move some things around, perhaps I want this to be moved over here, and some of the information we have just placed around. You'll notice that as I'm moving the elements here, it's rearranging the widgets, the spaces below it as well. So you can drag and drop and restyle, represent the information in different areas, wherever you want that focus to be. So looking back on the main one as well, obviously we've got the data source, the drop down we've looked at, but I've got the widgets here as well. Now, as we said, you can load up a configuration file, and if it is a template that's perhaps unstyled, you've got one that's just a basic layout for reporting your web surveys, and you want to add some custom elements there that are reflecting the style of your client. You've already got the widgets laid out, the report laid out, and you want to update those to how that might look and feel. So within each widget, you can customize these areas as well. And we'll look at the widgets in a little while when we come onto there and see what types of information can be presented. But as you're looking at customizing them all, you might want to sort of ensure that everyone has a title bar, so you know what that information is that's being presented. Again, we can sort of set different sizes for them. We can sort of adjust where they're going to appear on the screen. Let's just center it. On here, we've got obviously the colors, and I'm just going to change this so that we can, see a distinct change when we do this, and then change the background color as well. So we've got their sort of different styles on there. And if I reset the entire customs, so I'm overwriting any of the styles that were set on these custom widgets when we loaded our configuration file. And as soon as I press OK and it updates, you'll notice that we've then reset the titles to the center, changed the fonts, changed that. And it's on every widget that is in there. So each one is updated in specific styles and look and feel that could be relative to the client you want to push that out to. You'll notice we've also got sort of undo buttons on here as well. So you can sort of go backwards, forwards through the configuration. If you make any sort of errors, mistakes, and you want to change those, you can do that sort of quite quickly, quite easily. So just looking at sort of the information here as well, I'm now going to obviously talk to you more about what widgets are available, how we can actually look at the information we've got, how we can present that. So when we're looking at the sort of the widgets there, what we're really talking about is the type of information, the type of data available to display. And primarily, the widgets fall into two different categories. What we're looking at is data widgets, the information that's contained from the Nebu system, your survey information, the completes, the quotas, the productivity, the length of interview, all of that information that you would see usually within the managed frames area is now represented and easily identifiable through some widgets that you can then select and choose where you're going to place them in your dashboard. The other type of information that's in there as well is the external sources. So this is pulling in information that's not related to your surveys. As you can see, we've got clock calendar information on there, some images, the sort of URL type capabilities. And as I mentioned in one of the reports there, we have a sort of a YouTube video that can be embedded. Now, all of these widgets can be used to demonstrate some of the more custom features, adding a bit more of a sort of a reflection of your client in there. But you may also want to use them in different ways. Using the external URL can pull in other websites, perhaps other sort of documents that you may have stored on the web that you want to include in as part of a report. Having the custom HTML means you're able to add in your own information in there, build up perhaps some extra sort of Flash or Java or applications in there that you want to display to enhance further the dashboard capabilities. And we'll look at obviously how these widgets work when we are switching to a live demonstration of the widget configuration selection. Now, obviously, there is sort of that capability of customizing widgets. As we saw with the customization of the background, there's sort of lots of things you can do there with the style, the look and feel, with the padding, the configuration of it. But when it comes down to each individual widget in there, then obviously these are reproducible. You can also look at changing the images, changing the transparency, assigning a different background color to it. Depending on the data type, you can choose to display this as a chart or as a table. So as we saw in the report that we showed earlier, we had both the quotas shown as a chart, as a table side by side, and the number of completes also shown as a table, or we say a chart, but in this case it was a sort of a donut shape with different segmentation on there for your different core results. So You can choose that. Now, part of the other element in there as well, and what gives a significant benefit over using managed frames is that when you're looking at the counts widget, the whole counts, the pivot table on there as well, you can select which questions are going to be displayed, which ones are available within your table. And this means that you can then provide insights to your client on the progress, the measurement of certain responses, but then hide other questions you may have. So, remove the calculator type questions, which don't really provide information to your end client on what's happening. Perhaps hide some of the sort of questions you may have in there for your own control, your own maintenance of how that sort of widget is being displayed, how your survey is running. So you can provide a cleaner look and feel to your clients of only the data that's relevant to them, the data you want them to be able to see. And obviously, again, looking at different widgets in there, we can then select the date ranges that are available, select how we can play along with those. So once again, we're going to switch back to the dashboard and find out where we are with that one. And we will sort of see on here as well how we can look at launching our dashboard, finding out sort of exactly what we've done, how we can change and customize these widgets. So we're now going to sort of look at adding widgets on here. So if I click on my add widget option, it brings up the different widgets we have here. And then obviously I can choose whichever ones I wish to display. Now we'll notice that appointments, productivity, some of the core results on there as well. Those may be CATI specific information that you want to display. So, if you're going to put those widgets in to web surveys, then you're not going to be able to have anything to display in those areas. But you'll notice that there are plenty of other widgets in here that we can use, that we can sort of show to different clients and show what's happening there. So if I'm looking at, perhaps I'm going to select the completes on there as well. Once I add and configure, I then have different options. And again, these options will change depending on the widget that you're looking at displaying. So you'll see here, we've got which time period, whether we want to group the results, the counts by month, week, day, or hour on there, whether you want a table or a chart, the date range we want for this particular widget to display. I've got the title option again, whether I want the title to be displayed on here as well or not. And I have the background. So I can now overwrite the custom style or the default style with a custom one here for this particular widget. Again, we can, pick up a URL in here as well, or change the different colors. And we've got all the different areas here. So, what size we're going to use on here and the position within the widget. So obviously, depending on the space you have, when you're setting up your dashboard configuration, the more columns you choose, the less likely there's going to be padding around sort of one of these widgets, especially on sort of images and fixed images that come in. So you might want to just change and play around with that configuration to make sure that the spacing, the padding around any data you're putting into a widget, it looks and feels as you would expect it to. But it gives you that customization here as well. If you want to use a small icon as a background one or a small logo, you can then use that and repeat it behind, horizontally, vertically on there as well. So you've got that flexibility for each widget to be able to customize them, to be able to add them in. So if I just sort of cancel any customization, and we can come back to that, but you'll see that we've actually sort of put this one at the bottom. So it finds the first available space in your dashboard. I can then move it around if I want to. And I can also sort of undo and just remove it. So I've placed in a widget. I don't really want it there. I've got that undo, redo options as we demonstrated before and mentioned before. Now, Looking at the different types of widgets there as well. Now going back to these, if I'm looking at my my quota cells as an option on there as well, you'll notice this time we have different options on what I want to actually display on there. I've got the different quotas, the target types on there as well. Do I want to say what quota type it is, whether it's a sample or question quota type, or a mixed one in there as well. And we've got sort of the counts, the information that we want to display. Again, still the same title, background information that we can customize the look and feel of each individual widget as it's being pushed into your dashboard. If we look at adding on one of the as I mentioned, one of the tables, the counts on there as well. So as we add and configure one of these questions, because it's a question specific widget you're putting in there, you then see that it picks up from that connection to the manage frames, to the survey, all of the information that's available to be displayed. So if you're used to using your manage frames area, normally when you're looking at the top line, the all counts that you get within that managed frames area, you can't select individual questions. On this, I can select everything. I can deselect certain questions I want, clear them all, select multiple ones, see which ones I want to show in there. So I can choose which questions are going to be displayed in this particular widget to this particular sort of viewer of the dashboard. And we have the ability to obviously include or exclude the empty cells. Having that whole count widget in there will also help you to see which cells are have empties in there, which ones were skipped, perhaps routed over, depending on where the respondent was put through the survey. If you have the a skip logic at the beginning and they don't qualify, but you want to show everything, perhaps there's some empty cells there that don't want to be displayed. So you have that option. And you have the option to decide whether you're showing just the completes or not. You'll also notice, unlike in the managed frames where you're showing the all counts, you can't choose whether to show the statistics or not. So the mean, the median, the averages that are typically shown there, you can remove that just by simply checking the box on there. And we can see about whether I'm showing the description on there, so the actual question description or not. But perhaps I just want the question and the answers to be shown. So I'm just showing the answers, the codes, and the counts, percentages, those. But I have that flexibility to choose the information that's going to be shown in this dashboard. So it means that when we're looking at this, we can play around with the information we've got there. If I want to be able to adjust any of this information, so perhaps I'm looking at, as we said, loading up the template and making it more client specific, making it more interactive with those client elements. I can do things. So on here, I have an image set up in here as well. This is my top logo. It's very easy for me to just configure this, just put in a different logo. So all I have to do again is copy paste my different logos that I may have on there. So if I just put one in there, so I've got a preview of the logo here as well, so I can actually see how that's going to fit. If I put this as a cover, well, that's obviously covering the full lot on there as well. So I can change around with how it's going to be in this situation. I've got a preview of how that's going to fit. So we've got this, repeat, say X on there as well, and I put that in, and I've got a repetition. I've quickly changed the look and feel of that logo. I can customize how that's going to be for my particular client. Now, obviously, to make it more engaging, you might want to put some promotional material in here, using a a YouTube video. And again, it's quite easy on here to configure this individual YouTube movie and all the options that you may want to have in there. So if I'm looking at different video in there, perhaps I want to show more of a corporate one in here. I can add in my YouTube link. I'm going to only show it starting at 10 seconds, so maybe miss out that introductory part. I can put where it's going to end. We can actually show the controls, so someone can then see those controls. They have access to the the pause, the play, different options that you get on that YouTube embedding, and whether you want them to play full screen or whether you want it to autoplay. If I have it on the autoplay here as well, so when I launch my survey, it'll pick up the autoplay on here. So if I just going to lock this and go back to my dashboard a second, because what will happen, it will autoplay when we look at it. So if I view this one again as it comes in, it's picking up the autoplay here. And obviously I put the controls on so I can actually stop that and change what's going on there. So it gives me that capability to play around, to have the embedding, to have it look nice and neat in there. You'll also notice on the time bar, it started at the 10 seconds mark. So we started at the 10 seconds. It came in as we had set that criteria. So you can use that to select small snippets, highlight information in there to actually show that in your dashboard, to make the experience to the viewer much more personalized, much more engaging and interactive. They have not just sort of static, or well, not static, but not just the textual information, the counts in there. They have something a bit more lively, a bit more engaging to make them want to see what's happening in there. And if we do things like adding on the sort of external URL, and I want to add this one in, on here, if I just have adding in our own website on there as well, and I'll just scroll down because again, this has put this at the bottom. So I might want to drag this one into the bottom here and pull out different URLs. Oh, I typed in the wrong one. So we can just play around with that and show in different information in there as well. So we can actually get into the system and showing different videos, different links, different areas in there. Now, looking at back on the actual dashboard itself, what we're going to do is show sort of other ways of using this. So back on my dashboard, you'll notice that on here we have a drop down where you can quickly copy the URL. So this means I then have a URL available to start viewing, displaying, cutting and pasting into emails, how I'm going to distribute it. But we can also clone a particular project. And if I press on the clone button, you'll see that we've got this one cloned at the top, additional date timestamp at the end of it. So we had the first one in there as well. And it will be exactly as the previous one was. So again, a quicker way of utilizing that reusability, the scalability in there to ensure that you can use those widgets. You can get those reports out quickly and easily to your customer. So we've looked at, in our system, we've looked at the sort of different widgets that are available. We've looked at how you can customize them, how you can customize the dashboard on there. So we'll just sort of review over what we've seen today. So as you may have seen, the Nebu Reporter, it's pretty easy to use. It's fairly intuitive, and we've tried to build this so that anyone that, even if they're not familiar with the managed frame setup, perhaps some sort of research execs that aren't on the day-to-day production line in your sort of organization, they can have access to the dashboard. They can easily set up different widgets and pull them in, drag them around, make that configuration, and produce pretty stunning looking dashboards and reports in very quick fashion. They're quick to deploy, loading up those configuration files, having templated configuration files either for different clients or for the different modes, the different information you want to display, and being able to load those quickly and then make some simple changes means that you can get a dashboard out to your client very quickly. It's completely customizable. You will have seen we've been able to change the fonts, the colors, the background images, changing the sort of the look and feel and the behavior of the different reports there. So you can really make it stylized to reflect the viewer that you're giving access to this dashboard to. And obviously it's dynamic. It's pulling in that information all the time. The information is being updated, being read in from your survey, and continuously is providing that sort of real-time insight and availability to your client. So obviously, we've covered a lot there today. I hope what you've seen has sparked some interest. We will be sending out a sort of an email to everyone very shortly after the webinar, so you can register your interest in getting access to the Nebu Reporter, to getting able to utilize it, to start using the Nebu Reporter and start providing that sort of interest and information to your clients on there as well. So I'd like to thank everyone for their attention today, and I hope that the Nebu Reporter has sparked some interest in there, and I'd welcome any sort of questions or comments that anyone may have. So quick question came in just about whether this would replace some of the differing tools there are in the marketplace. As we said at the beginning, the Nebu Reporter is intended to be a sort of a nicer, a clearer managed frames with selected information. It's not intended to be a replacement for the statistical type tools, those that provide you the ability to carry out sort of weighting and custom changes in there as well. It is a simple dashboarding, a simple progress dashboard to look at the way that you're conducting your survey, the way that your survey is being maneuvered through, but also being able to have some of that extra custom information there so that you can make it more personal to the viewer that's accessing in each individual dashboard. Yep. So the Nebu Reporter, it will be available very shortly. We are going to obviously control the rollout of this to various different clients. It does require an update to your current environment. Obviously, there's sort of information that needs to be passed from the Dub Interviewer system into the Nebu Reporter. So we do need to make changes to the environment you're running your system on, make sure that that's available to you. So, obviously, if you register your interest, we'd be in contact with you to look at when we can conduct an update of your system and then add on this information and sort of talk you through, again, how the dashboards are available, how you can get access to them, how you can use them. So obviously, sort of any further development plans. As I mentioned earlier, we're not looking at making this a replacement for any of the statistical tools. So any of the development we will look at doing in the product will obviously come from feedback from our users, as we always do with all of our products. Our users are our most invaluable source of information there. They drive our development program, and it's important that the feedback we get from them on all the products comes back into our system so that we can make those adjustments. We can improve continuously the software we're developing and delivering to our clients. There are a number of things we want to do here. This is, obviously the first release of our Nebu Reporter. We want to expand that. We want to be able to give more flexibility in there, but we also want that feedback from users to be able to drive where the attention and the focus is, so that we deliver to you the type of software that you expect and want from Nebu. Well, I'd like to once again thank everyone for joining the webinar today. As always, the webinars are available on our YouTube channel. You can sort of dive into previous webinars as well, find out some extra information on there, and make sure that you sort of register for our newsletters, our information. Be aware of any of the upcoming webinars that are every month, and find out what those topics are. We will, of course, be doing another webinar on the Nebu Reporter and going into more detail on the different widgets, showing some of the configuration, the layouts, and the extra information you can do there, perhaps some of the sort of tips and tricks we've picked up along the way. So I thank you for your time and wish you a good day.